Hi everyone, welcome back. Getting a bit crafty today, which I'm really excited to do. Basically, any chance I get to actually, I say use my degree, but really I didn't actually do that much sewing in my degree. So for anyone that doesn't know, I did textile design at uni, but I was specialised in like woven textiles. So I actually have my own loom, and that's completely off topic anyway. So we're getting crafty today, and I am gonna sew some curtains. Yeah, it is like one of the easier projects, so it is super beginner friendly. It's just amazing, basically, if you want to sort of just get used to using a sewing machine. And yeah, so we're gonna do that. I'm doing like these cafe curtains for my kitchen. I feel like they are going to be potentially like a bit taller, like a bit longer than normal cafe curtains, just purely because of the window in the kitchen. I'll show you what I mean when I put them up. But yeah, I hope you enjoy, and I hope you learn something. I hope if you're wanting to make your own curtains, or you're wanting to add a little bit of something into your like home, pick some curtains. And you could easily as well do this with like without a sewing machine. So I have a sewing machine, but you could do it with like hemming tape we like iron on. So it's super beginner friendly and it's great. Like parched from talking. So enough of me rambling. Let's get into it. So I basically got this bed sheet from IKEA. I just bought a single just because I didn't need as much fabric as like a double or a king would, and I feel like a single was already, it was like a good like 20 odd quid just for the single. But honestly, I love using bed sheets for like sewing projects. You get so much fabric. Like I got a lot more fabric than I would from like actually buying the fabric itself, because obviously bed sheet, like you've got both, like you've got the front and the back basically. Obviously you might want to line it with something. I personally didn't really feel the need to do that because I didn't want I still wanted the light to come through the curtains. So I just went with just like the one single layer of fabric. So I basically just start with cutting like the stitches that are like sort of like holding it all together. And I mean, you'll be able to tell from what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, how I'm talking about it. I don't know the proper terminology for any of this. I don't know what I'm doing. Yes, I did a degree in textile design, but I was not actually sewing that much. I was there like on a loom weaving. Like picture what is it? Like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory, where he's there like with a loom, like weaving a poncho. Like that was literally me for like my whole degree. So I am definitely not an expert when it comes to sewing and sewing projects and things like that, but I just wing it. And equally, I didn't want it to be perfect. I wanted it to have that sort of like handmade quality and handmade feel to it. So I didn't really care if my lines weren't completely straight, or if, you know, the stitches weren't 100% like perfect or anything. I'm not selling this. Like, this is for my own window in my own house. So yeah, we go with it. So basically, just like at this point, I'm just like taking apart the bed sheet. So like taking out the label, taking out the like ripping the seams and all of that, just basically getting it to a point where it's like a flat piece of fabric. Because obviously with a bed sheet like this one especially, there was like poppers all down the side, which I mean, as a bed sheet, like that would be great. Like, you know, you'd have to do all the buttons. But yeah, so I knew that I wanted to just get it to a point where it was like a flat piece of fabric so that I could work from that a bit easier. So I was going to go down and literally like seam rip down the whole seam, but then I realised it would be so much quicker and so much easier just to basically cut the seam out. Like, because it's a like gingham, like checkered fabric, it's quite easy. Like I can just follow the lines of the check and not really worry too much about measuring it. So that's what I did. And I started just by cutting it, and then realized it's like that thing that people do, they like rip the fabric. I mean, you'll see when I do it, but it's so much quicker. Yes, it's not as neat, it's not potentially not as accurate, and you can see me sort of like fumbling about a bit, like checking that it's gonna be all right for me to do that and that I'm not gonna like destroy the fabric. But yeah, because I knew I was going to be hemming this over anyway, I didn't really like worry too much that the edge was going to be a bit frayed and a bit like a raw edge. So I just went in and ripped down the whole thing, and it made it so much quicker. Plus the noise is like so satisfying. So now I just get into the measuring of it. So I knew roughly how big I needed to make the curtains, and I knew that for this project, like I could very easily just go with the pattern on the fabric, but I still needed to like measure it. So got my handy dandy little measuring tape out and just like measured roughly, put some pins in for like the length of the curtain, and just went with it. You might also then see I did then resort to counting squares. After I had measured it and got the right measurement, it was so much easier just to actually count the squares on the checkered pattern. At this point, I am drastically losing daylight. So, I am really sorry that this is now quite like a dark shot. The camera is really struggling to focus. So I then just waited until the next day to do the rest of it. So I'm just gonna like hem around all the edges of the fabric just so that none of those like frayed edges can like fray them more basically. So I just use these clips. You can use pins, you can use clips, whatever you fancy. I just wanted to use clips for this bit. I don't really know why I chose that, I just did. So just adjusting the bits on the sewing machine, and then we're gonna get going. And I just like take out the clips as I'm going through and just like push the fabric through, whatever it is. I am just using like a straight stitch along the edge of this. I am by no means an expert with hemming or anything like that. I just stick it in the sewing machine and hope for the best. So that's what we're doing. When it gets to the corner, I kind of did like a little bit of I went over the corner, like at an angle, and then back down the side on the other side. You basically just want to make sure that the needle like doesn't actually come out of the fabric. Like when you lift up the foot on the sewing machine and you're moving the fabric around, you want to make sure that the needle is still like into the fabric, because otherwise that is gonna like move around and you're not gonna get like a straight line of stitches, because obviously you're having to move the foot up to move the fabric, but then the needle will hold the fabric in place, if that makes sense. I feel like I didn't really explain that well. And then I just basically went around the rest of the fabric, went around all four sides of it, and just got it completely hemmed up and ready to go. So I did actually do 2 lines of stitches as well, just to make it like a little bit stronger, a little bit like neater, really. There was like, you know, the little bit of fabric almost like flapping about a bit at the back. So I just made sure that I did like 2 lines for the seam. So I just basically went around again after I'd done the first row of stitching. And then, like any seasoned sewist will know, you run out of your bobbin all the time. And I mistakenly didn't check this before I started like a really long line of sewing. And so this ran out in the middle, which was really annoying. But yeah, once you like know how to do it all, it's really not that hard. And equally as well, there's all these arrows on the sewing machine that show you like exactly where the thread from the bobbin and all of that needs to go in order to like get more thread onto the bobbin, how to thread up the machine, all of that. Like it's super, super handy. At least there's arrows on this machine, and there was like basically on every sewing machine I've used, but there's plenty of like diagrams you could probably use as well. And then I just got back to it. And yeah, there's always some sort of mistake that goes wrong. Here I actually have no idea why it did that. I just basically take it out and then start again and hope for the best. Sometimes it can be like if you don't put the foot down, it will all like catch on the back. Other times it's like the tension on the threads, like if the thread hasn't been pulled up properly from the bobbin, anything like that. And anyone who actually knows how to sew, and if I'm like explaining this completely wrong, like please feel free to jump into the comments and tell me that I'm wrong on this. I am not an expert when it comes to sewing. Weaving, sure, I can tell you anything you need to know about that, but sewing, not so much. But we're just winging it and going with it, and that is why this is so beginner friendly, because I know it might look like I know what I'm doing sometimes, and sometimes might sound like I know what I'm doing. Genuinely, like there is so much of me just sitting here looking at it going, okay, what the hell do I do now? And a lot of it is like I find with like crafting stuff and like especially sewing projects and like different like projects where you're actually making something, so much of it can be problem solving and like troubleshooting, and knowing how to do that, just almost having like a bit of like a problem solving mindset, you just end up figuring it out. And so here I basically wanted like a bit of a bigger hem at the bottom and at the top of the curtains. That's just like the style that I had seen with different curtains, you know, like they have a little bit that's folded up a bit more at the top and the bottom compared to the sides. And I just really wanted that look with these cafe curtains for my kitchen. So I'm just doing that. Yeah, fair enough, you can say that like it might be a bit pointless to have originally hemmed it, but I really didn't want any of that fabric to be fraying. So I did it a bit bigger for the bottom of the curtain and then literally just like folded it over. I just went with the pattern on the fabric on this. I didn't do it by measurement, but I would say these squares on the fabric, they were about like an inch. So yeah, the top would have had about like an inch folded over, and then the bottom about 2 inches. Now I wasn't bothered that there was then like this like loop at the bottom of the fabric. I really didn't like care much about that. And I didn't mind that, you know, the lines weren't completely straight and all of that. It genuinely doesn't bother me. Equally, you know, if it does bother you, then feel free to neaten up your project a little bit more than I have done. And then I did this twice for 2 curtains, but I'm not going to show you the whole process again for the exact same curtain. So then I'm going to get this all hung up. I got these really cute little brass hooks and these like little clips. I knew that I wanted like this sort of style with them, and I honestly wasn't really sure how to hang them up, like whether it needed to be like pleated or anything like that. I've just kind of like, honestly, I feel like you can tell the theme of this. I just wing it and I just like do it and hope for the best. Like you don't need to have it all figured out to do these little projects for yourself. Like just just do it. Just do it. And if it goes wrong, then just learn from that and go, okay, why did that go wrong? And then do it again and try something different next time. And that's fine. That's okay. So I've got one of these like telescopic poles purely because then obviously it's a rented place, and with this it's like no damage. I don't have to put holes in the walls for like curtain rods or anything like that. So I just use one of those, got all of the rings put on there, and then clipped everything on. And then in hindsight, this was actually then really annoying to hang up, and I feel like I actually ended up maybe unclipping it all when I put it up. But yeah, that's the finished product. And these were some other curtains that I got from IKEA. I got them all like on reduced, and I'm going to use this white one. I made sure to get like 100% cotton because this is going to go in my bathroom, and I wanted it to be something that was like really easily washable, wasn't like it was going to be okay in more of like a damp room. So I do have like frosted windows in the bathroom, but I just wanted something else to go in there. And then this sort of like pinky coloured one, I think I'm going to use that either for like one of the bedrooms or something. And this was one that was from Dunelm. It's like a thermal like lined curtain. And so there is actually 2 curtains in here. I've only used one so far, but I will try and find another use for the other one as well because it's just gorgeous. Fits into the whole like cottage core theme so nicely with this like purple gingham. But I just needed to hem all of these up. Like obviously they weren't the right length, and especially for the bathroom one, like these were really good long curtains. I just got them because they were like discounted IKEA. I'm like, perfect. And I didn't really want to go with too much colour for the curtain for the bathroom window, purely because the bathroom is actually quite, I would say it is quite colourful by itself. Like all the tiles and stuff are like this really, really gorgeous like deep blue, like turquoisey kind of colour, which just, I mean, they're gorgeous, but I then didn't want to have like too much colour in with the curtain, and I wanted like the light to come in like still quite easily. So I just wanted to go with like a nice cream off-white, something like that, just so that it was nice and light and airy. And then we're basically just going to get all of that all measured up and all hemmed. I am not measuring this in a good way. Please, like, don't feel like you need to measure like this. Get it out on a flat surface and actually measure it properly. Please do yourself a favour. Like, I really am not fussed if my projects aren't perfect, and so I just did it like this and hope for the best. But this is not a professional way of doing it. Big, big disclaimer on that. So on these ones I decided to pin it. I think it was because the fabric was like a little bit thinner, so it was easier to pin it really. And then I just go through and hem it all, doing the exact same method as before on the same machine. I feel like I even used the same thread because it was just like a white thread that I'd used for the kitchen curtains. And that obviously would work really well with these ones. Again, using straight stitch on here and just going all the way around the fabric, anywhere where there's a raw edge and I don't want it to be fraying. So I did the same thing I did on the other curtains and like folded it up again. So almost like stitching one bit so that it doesn't fray and then folding it over again and creating like another seam on there, like another hem. And there is probably a much more efficient way of doing this and a much cleaner way of doing this, but this is just apparently all the creativity I had in me at this point. So we've just gone with it and hoping for the best. As you can also see, I clearly did not do something right with measuring, because that little bit that I'm sewing, it got gradually like bigger and bigger. So once the curtain was actually up, you'll see like it's completely fine. But yeah, there was definitely something that went wrong with my measuring there, but it's fine. It's for a little home project, nothing that is like professional that I'm going to sell. And then I did the same thing with the curtain to go over the front door. So I wanted to use this for the front door because it's very like, it's an old door, it's literally like a wooden door, and it's very drafty. And I think it's one of the reasons why like the hallway by the front door is so cold, and that's like right in the bathroom as well, which is just really annoying. But yeah, so I knew that I wanted to get something there that was a bit more like thermal, a bit lined, and would just like help keep some of the cold out a little bit. And again with this, I just went with the checks on the fabric, like with the pattern. Honestly, it made it so much easier. Like, I love gingham and checkered patterns anyway, but sewing with them, oh my god, it's so easy. Like, you just go with the lines on the fabric. So I'm going to be choosing gingham for basically every single fabric. You know that trending thing that's going around at the minute where it's just like, girls love gingham. Yeah, we do. Like, I don't know about anyone else, I certainly do. But yeah, so I just got that all hemmed up, and then I'm going to put those up and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this is the finished result, and honestly I'm so happy with it. I feel like it's absolutely gorgeous. It just, like, you'll see why I did it quite high, because I basically wanted it to be like this bit of the window was covered, but I didn't want it to be like the whole thing. I still wanted to get like some natural light in. So that is the result, and yeah, I honestly love it so much. I feel like maybe I do want to get a different way of like clipping these on, like maybe like pleating it, but honestly for now, like I think because there is quite a bit of material, like it ends up sitting quite nice and pleated, and yeah, I just absolutely love them. They're great. Now I've also put by the front door, so I've put another one of those like telescopic poles up, and then that curtain has gone in front of the door. Obviously can't get the whole thing in shot, like I have a tiny hallway out here, I can't get the whole thing in, but it means that then that little window, like that is kind of covered, and then I just want to get like something to go along the bottom basically. It's ended up being like a little bit, I basically completely measured it wrong, but it's fine because I'm gonna get like I wanted to get like some sort of like draft excluder thing to go down there, and I don't really want it like touching the floor because it gets quite dusty in here, and then the bottom of the curtain will get like really dusty. So yeah, I am super happy with that, and already I feel like I notice the difference. Like, it's not as cold when I come into this hallway when I have that curtain pulled, so that's just really good. And then we've put this one up in the bathroom, and yeah, I feel like it's perfect for a bathroom. Like, the window is already like frosted, so it's not like I needed this to be like completely opaque. So I actually quite like that it's quite airy and it's quite light, and you can still get like all the natural daylight in, but it just feels like an extra sort of added layer of protection, really. Because I was saying, you don't want anyone to see in the shower. So yeah, I really like this, and I'm glad that I went with this curtain for this space. And obviously I still have like the other curtain that I can use. I didn't want to add too much in here. I feel like maybe I do want to change something about how this is put up, and I don't like that it's a black rail, but you know, it's a rented space, it's not perfect, and it does the job. So just wanted to jump in really quick. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate anyone that has stayed this far to watch the whole thing. Really, like from the bottom of my heart, appreciate it. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all of that stuff. It genuinely means the world. And have a great weekend and a great week, and I will see you next week. Bye.